General Park Sung-ho was reading supply reports on his flagship when the message from Commander Tae-ho arrived. The general looked at it quickly. Another raid on a primitive planet called Earth. He almost deleted the message without reading it completely, but something made him pause. The planet name Earth sounded familiar. Park had heard whispers about this world in intelligence briefings. Some agents said the humans there might not be as primitive as they looked, but most Krellian commanders ignored such warnings. They had conquered hundreds of weak species before. Park decided to check the intelligence files about Earth. What he found made him uncomfortable. The planet had been observed for several years, but the reports were confusing. Some scans showed primitive technology. Other scans detected energy readings that made no sense. Meanwhile, 60,000 light-years away, something impossible was happening. Chief Jae-min and his SEAL team had boarded a spacecraft that officially did not exist. The ship was called Silent Hunter, and it used technology that most humans did not know about. The Silent Hunter looked like a normal military transport from the outside, but inside it contained engines and weapons built from alien technology that Earth forces had captured in secret battles over the past 20 years. The public never learned about these encounters because the government wanted to keep human capabilities hidden. Admiral Cho Min-soo watched from the hidden command center as the Silent Hunter prepared to launch. She knew this mission would either save one child or expose humanity to a hostile galaxy. The risk was enormous, but no military leader suggested abandoning the mission. The SEAL team checked their equipment one final time. They carried weapons that could work in space and on alien ships. Their suits could protect them in any environment. Each man had trained for this kind of mission, even though they never expected to fight aliens in deep space. Jae-min sat in the pilot seat next to Lieutenant Commander Park So-young, who was the ship navigation officer. She had calculated the most likely path the alien ship would take based on the captured navigation data from previous encounters with Krellian vessels. Mathematics were complex, but the logic was simple. The aliens would want to reach a trading post quickly to sell their stolen child. They would follow established space routes that were considered safe for slave ships. This gave the humans several possible intercept points. Silent Hunter launched from the underwater base without making any sound. The ship rose through the ocean and into space using engines that bent space around them instead of pushing against it. This technology was far more advanced than anything the Krellians used. The human ship began jumping through hyperspace in a way that confused alien sensors. Instead of following the Krellian ship directly, the SEALs plotted intercept courses that would save time and energy. They were not just chasing their enemy, they were hunting them. Back on his flagship, General Park was becoming more worried. His long-range sensors had detected something unusual. A ship was moving through space at speeds that should not be possible. The vessel design was not in any Krellian database, and it was heading toward Commander Tae-ho position. Park tried to contact Tae-ho's ship but got no response. This was strange because the commander always reported his status every few hours. The general ordered his science officer, Dr. Lee Yan-soo, to scan the unknown vessel more carefully. Dr. Lee ran the scans 3 times before she believed the results. The unknown ship seemed to be manipulating space-time itself rather than just traveling through it. The energy readings were unlike anything she had seen in 30 years of studying alien technology. The doctor reported to General Park that whoever built this ship understood physics better than the Krellians did. The vessel was not just faster than their ships. It was more efficient in every way. This suggested a level of technological development that was frightening to consider. General Park immediately sent a priority message to all Krellian ships in the sector. Warning unknown. Vessel approaching with superior technology. All units maintain safe distance and report any contact immediately. Do not engage without direct orders from Fleet Command. But the warning came too late. The Silent Hunter had already found its target. Commander Tejo's ship was traveling along a trade route toward the slave markets, completely unaware that death was approaching from behind. The SEALs prepared for boarding action in a way that no alien military had ever trained for. They would not announce themselves or demand surrender. They would simply take the enemy ship and eliminate anyone who tried to stop them from rescuing the child chief. Jamin checked his weapon one last time. He had fought terrorists, pirates, and enemy soldiers in dozens of countries. But this was different. This time, it was personal. Someone had taken his daughter, and they were going to pay the highest possible price for that mistake. Lieutenant Commander Park guided the silent hunter to within boarding range of the Krellian ship. The human vessel was completely invisible to alien sensors because it used stealth technology that absorbed all forms of detection equipment. The boarding tubes extended from Silent Hunter to the alien ship and locked onto the hull. The SEALs moved through the tubes quickly and quietly. Their suits protected them from the vacuum of space, and their weapons were ready to fire. Commander Tejo was relaxing in his command chair when the first sign of trouble appeared. One of his crew members disappeared from the bridge without explanation. Lieutenant Heywan had been monitoring communications when she simply vanished. Then Ensign Kyung-ho disappeared from the weapons station. Tejo began to realize that something was very wrong. His ship was being invaded by something that moved like shadows and killed without making any sound. The Krellian commander tried to activate the ship alarm systems, but the controls did not respond. Someone had already taken control of his ship computer systems. The invaders were not just deadly, they were also technically superior. Tejo grabbed his personal weapon and tried to reach the holding cells where the human child was being kept. He needed to use her as a bargaining tool to negotiate with whoever was attacking his ship. But when he reached the corridor leading to the cells, he found his path blocked. A figure in strange armor stood in the hallway, holding a weapon that Tejo did not recognize. The figure motioned for the commander to drop his weapon and step back. Tejo realized this was probably one of the humans, but he looked nothing like the primitive creatures they had observed on Earth. The armored human spoke in perfect Krellian language using a translation device. "Where is the child? Return her now, and your death will be quick. Continue to resist, and it will be very slow." Tejo dropped his weapon. He had been a military officer for 20 years, but he had never faced an enemy like this. The human moved, with confidence that spoke of extensive combat experience. This was not a desperate parent. This was a professional killer. Within 17 minutes of boarding the alien ship, the SEALs had completed their primary mission. Da-Un was found unharmed in the holding cell and quickly moved back to the Silent Hunter. 2 SEALs escorted her to safety, while the others continued with their secondary objectives. The secondary mission was intelligence gathering. The SEALs downloaded navigation charts, communication codes, and fleet positions from the alien ship computers. They also planted explosive charges throughout the vessel that would destroy all evidence of human involvement. When General Park finally received a distress signal from Commander Tejo's ship, the message was brief and terrifying. "Unknown human vessels, impossible capabilities. They are not primitive request, immediate assistance." Then the communication ended in static and silence. The general stared at his displays in growing horror as he realized his forces had made contact with a species that might be far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The explosion that destroyed Commander Tejo's ship could be seen from light years away. It sent a message across space that would soon change how every alien species viewed humanity. The humans were no longer hiding their capabilities, and they were not interested in peaceful negotiations when their children were threatened. General Park stood in his private quarters, staring out at the stars through the observation window. His fleet was in full retreat from human space, and he still could not believe what had happened. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered an enemy like this. The reports from his surviving outposts painted a picture that challenged everything the Krellian Empire believed about warfare. The humans did not fight like any known species. They struck without warning, eliminated all opposition, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Bong entered the quarters carrying the latest intelligence summary. 17 Krellian installations had been destroyed in the past week. Each attack showed the same pattern: precise timing, overwhelming force, and complete information gathering before destruction. The human tactics were unlike anything in Krellian military history. Most species that achieved spaceflight developed similar strategies. They built large fleets, engaged in massive battles, and conquered territory through superior numbers or technology, but humanity was different. They treated war like surgery, cutting out specific targets while leaving everything else untouched. They did not want to conquer Krellian territory. They wanted to eliminate any threat to their homeworld. Dr. Lee had spent days analyzing the energy signatures left behind by human weapons. Her conclusions were disturbing. The humans were not using conventional weapons technology. Their equipment seemed to manipulate matter and energy at the molecular level. The doctor explained that human weapons did not just destroy targets, they completely disintegrated them at the atomic level. This explained why Krellian rescue teams found no survivors and very little debris at attack sites. Major Wan brought psychological profiles of human behavior patterns compiled from intelligence sources across the galaxy. The profiles revealed that humans were unique among spacefaring species in their emotional attachment to family groups. Most alien civilizations became less emotional as they advanced technologically. The need for family bonds usually disappeared as societies developed better social structures, but humans had retained their primitive protective instincts even as their technology advanced. This combination of advanced technology and primitive emotions made humanity extremely dangerous. When human children were threatened, the entire species seemed to mobilize for war, regardless of the odds or consequences. General Park realized that Commander Tae-ho had not just made a tactical mistake, he had committed a strategic disaster by targeting the one thing that would turn peaceful humans into implacable enemies. General received a priority message from Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-sung at High Command. The message contained new intelligence about human capabilities gathered from other alien species who had encountered Earth forces. The Zephyrian Trade Confederation reported that human merchants had been purchasing advanced materials and technology for over 20 years. The purchases suggested large-scale military construction projects hidden somewhere in the Sol system. The Andorian Republic had detected human exploration vessels in their territory, but the ships had avoided contact and disappeared when approached. This indicated that humans had been secretly mapping galactic civilization while remaining hidden themselves. Most disturbing was a report from the Vorthon Intelligence Service. They had attempted to infiltrate human society using shapeshifters, but all their agents had disappeared without trace. This suggested that Earth had counterintelligence capabilities that could detect alien infiltration. General Park began to understand the true scope of his problem. Humanity was not a primitive species stumbling into galactic politics. They were an advanced civilization that had been carefully studying their potential enemies while preparing for inevitable conflict. The humans had allowed other species to underestimate them while secretly building military capabilities that could challenge established galactic powers. The kidnapping of one child had forced them to reveal technology and tactics they had hoped to keep hidden. Admiral Cho Min-soo's voice came through the communication system requesting direct contact with General Park. The human admiral wanted to negotiate the return of captured Krellian personnel in exchange for guarantees that no further attacks would be made on human settlements. The conversation between Park and Cho was historic. As the first official diplomatic contact between their species, Admiral Cho spoke perfect Krellian language and demonstrated detailed knowledge of Krellian military organization and capabilities. Admiral Cho explained that humanity had been monitoring galactic civilization for decades through hidden observation posts and captured alien technology. They knew about every major species, their military capabilities, and their territorial boundaries. The human admiral made it clear that Earth had no interest in galactic conquest or territorial expansion. They wanted only to be left alone to develop their own civilization. But they would not tolerate any threats to human lives, especially children. Park learned that the rescue mission had been authorized at the highest levels of human government. Earth leaders had been willing to risk exposure of their military secrets, rather than abandon one kidnapped child. This level of commitment was unprecedented in galactic history. Admiral Cho offered a deal that would end the conflict immediately. All captured, Krellian personnel would be returned unharmed in exchange for a formal treaty recognizing human territorial claims and guaranteeing no future attacks on human settlements. The treaty would also establish trade relationships between the species and create diplomatic channels for resolving future disputes peacefully. But any violation of the agreement would result in immediate military action against Krellian targets. General Park accepted the offer immediately. He had seen enough human military capability to know that continued conflict would result in the complete destruction of his forces. The humans had demonstrated that they could strike anywhere at any time. The prisoner exchange took place at a neutral location near the edge of Krellian space. Admiral Lee Jun-ho and 37 other captured personnel were returned to General Park custody. They reported that they had been treated according to galactic military conventions. Admiral Lee, briefing about his captivity, provided insight into human psychology that would reshape Krellian understanding of Earth culture. The humans had not tortured or mistreated their prisoners, but they had made it clear that any harm to human children would result in total war. The rescued Krellian officers described their captors as professional warriors who followed strict codes of conduct, but were absolutely ruthless when protecting their families. This combination of honor and lethality made them unlike any enemy the Krellians had ever faced. General Park's final report to High Command became required. Reading at military academies throughout the Krellian Empire, the report recommended treating humanity as a major galactic power despite their small territorial holdings. The general concluded that human strength came not from their technology or their numbers, but from their unity of purpose. When human children were threatened, the entire species responded as a single military unit. This made them unbeatable in any conflict involving their core interests. High Command accepted General Park recommendations and issued new regulations regarding contact with human vessels. All Krellian forces were ordered to maintain respectful distance from human territory and avoid any actions that could be interpreted as threatening. The Krellian Empire also began secret negotiations with other galactic powers to establish humanity as a protected species. Any attack on human settlements would be considered an act of aggression against the Empire itself. General Park was appointed as the first Krellian ambassador to Earth, a position that would make him one of the most important diplomats in galactic history. His mission was to ensure that the terrible mistake made by Commander Tae-ho would never be repeated. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are those who fight not for conquest or glory, but for love of their children, and humanity's love for their young made them willing to destroy entire civilizations to protect a single human child. Commander Tae-ho looked down at the small blue planet through his ship window. The planet looked so quiet and peaceful with white clouds moving slowly over green and brown land. His ship computers told him this was called Earth, and the creatures living there were called humans. The Krellian Empire had sent Tai-ho and his crew to find new slaves for the mining colonies. These humans looked perfect for hard work. They were not too big and not too small, and they seemed to live in small groups. That would be easy to attack, Ho smiled as he watched the human settlement below. The buildings were small and simple, nothing like the great metal cities of his home world. There were only a few flying machines in the sky, and they moved very slowly. His sensors showed no weapons that could reach his ship. The settlement was near a large body of water. The humans called it an ocean. Tai-Ho could see small human children playing on the sandy shore while adult humans watched them. Some of the adults wore matching clothes that looked like uniforms, but Tai-Ho did not think this was important. He turned to his crew on the bridge. Lieutenant Hai-Wan was checking the scanning equipment. Pilot Min-Ho was keeping the ship steady in the sky. Gunner Kyung-Ho was making sure the stun weapons were ready. "This will be easy," Tai-Ho said to his crew. "The humans have no real weapons and no shields around their settlement. We will take a few of their young ones and leave before they can do anything to stop us." The crew nodded. They had done this many times before on many different planets. Most species were too weak or too scared to fight back. The few that tried to resist were quickly defeated by superior Krellian technology. Ho gave the order to begin the attack. The ship dropped down through the clouds, moving fast toward the beach where the human children were playing. The children looked up at the strange silver ship with curious eyes. They did not run or hide. They just stood there watching. The ship landed on the sand with a soft thud. Several Krellian soldiers ran out wearing their battle armor. They carried stun weapons that would make the humans sleep without hurting them too much. The soldiers moved quickly toward the children. One small human female child was standing closer to the water. She had been collecting small shells from the beach and putting them in a bucket. She looked to be about 8 years old with dark hair and was wearing simple play clothes. Soldiers grabbed her before she could run. She dropped her bucket and the shells scattered on the sand. She called out for her father in the human language, but no help came. The soldiers carried her back to the ship quickly, the adult humans near. The buildings started running toward the beach when they saw what was happening, but they were too far away. The Krellian ship was already lifting off with the child inside. Commander Tai-Ho felt very pleased with how easy it had been. What the commander did not know was very important. The settlement was not just any human village. It was a place where human warriors lived with their families. The buildings that looked so simple were actually part of a military training base. The uniformed adults he had seen were some of the most dangerous fighters in the human military. The child they had taken was named Da-Un. She was the daughter of Chief Petty Officer Kim Jae-min. Jae-min was not just any human warrior. He was part of an elite group called Navy SEALs. These humans were trained to fight in ways that most aliens had never seen. Jae-min had been inside one of the training buildings when he heard his daughter scream. He ran to the window and saw the alien ship flying away with Da-Un inside. Other human warriors gathered around him. They could see the rage building in his eyes. Most fathers would have been scared or confused, but Jae-min was different. He had spent 20 years learning how to rescue people from impossible situations. He had fought in wars on 3 different continents. He had saved hostages from terrorists and criminals. Now someone had made the mistake of taking his own child. Jae-min walked calmly to the weapons storage room. His fellow SEALs followed him. They knew that look in his eyes. It meant someone was going to pay a very high price for their mistake. The other warriors began checking their own equipment without being asked. Commander Tai-Ho ordered his ship to fly toward the edge of the star system. They would meet with a larger Krellian ship there and transfer the human child to a slave transport vessel. The child would be sold at the markets on Vexter Prime, where she would spend the rest of her life working in the mines. The little girl sat in a holding cell on the alien ship. She was scared, but trying to be brave like her father had taught her. She did not cry even though she wanted to. She kept thinking about what her father always told her. Never give up, and always remember that. Family comes first. Back on Earth, something was happening that had never happened before in galactic history. The human military was preparing to launch a rescue mission into deep space. Most alien species thought humans were still learning how to. fly simple rockets. They had no idea that Earth had been secretly building advanced spacecraft for many years. Admiral Cho Min-soo received the emergency call at the Secret Space Command Center. She listened as Jae-min explained what had happened. The Admiral knew this meant exposing human military secrets that had been hidden for decades, but she also knew the military code, leave no one behind. Within 2 hours, a ship called Silent Hunter was being prepared for launch. The ship used technology that officially did not exist. It could travel faster than light and had weapons that could destroy much larger vessels. The ship had been built for exactly this kind of mission. Jae-min and 11 other Navy SEALs boarded the Silent Hunter. They brought enough weapons and equipment to fight a small war. Each man knew they might not come back from this mission, but none of them suggested staying behind. When a SEAL child was taken, the entire Brotherhood responded. The Silent Hunter launched from a hidden base under the ocean. It rose through the water and into space, without making any sound that alien sensors could detect. The ship began following the trail left by the Krellian vessel, using tracking technology the aliens did not know existed. Commander Tae-ho relaxed in his command chair as his ship flew toward the rendezvous point. He had completed another successful raid. The human child was secured and would soon be delivered to the slave traders. He ordered Lieutenant Hae-won to send a message to Fleet Command reporting their success. The message was sent across space to General Park Sung-ho, who commanded the Krellian 7th Fleet. The general barely looked at the routine report. Another primitive species, another successful harvest. He filed the report and went back to his other duties. Neither the commander nor the general realized they had just started a war with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They had taken a child from warriors who would rather die than abandon one of their own. The humans were coming, and they were bringing technology and tactics that would change everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. The hunt had begun, and the Krellians had no idea what was following them through the darkness of space. General Park called an emergency meeting on his flagship, Eternal Victory. His senior officers gathered in the war room, looking confused and worried. They had never seen their commander so disturbed. Captain Bong Ji-woo brought the tactical reports, while Dr. Lee Yeon-soo carried her scientific analysis. The data from Commander Tae-ho's final transmission painted a terrifying picture. The human vessel had approached at speeds that broke every known law of physics. The boarding action had been completed, with surgical precision that suggested centuries of warfare experience. Dr. Lee presented her findings to the group. The energy signatures detected during the attack were completely unknown to Krellian science. The humans were not just more advanced than expected, they were using technology that seemed impossible. The human ship had somehow become invisible to all sensors during the approach. No Krellian vessel could do this, even with the most advanced stealth systems. The implications were staggering. If Earth could build one such ship, how many more might exist? Captain Bong reviewed the tactical situation with growing alarm. The humans had demonstrated several frightening capabilities. They could travel faster than Krellian ships they could board enemy vessels without being detected, and they could fight with a level of skill that suggested extensive military experience. Major Won Dong-hyun from Fleet Intelligence brought classified files that had been ignored for years, 3 years earlier. Deep space probes had detected unusual energy readings from the Sol system. The readings had been dismissed as natural phenomena, but now they looked like evidence of massive military construction. The intelligence officer explained that hidden throughout Earth's solar system there appeared to be industrial facilities and weapon platforms that had escaped detection. The humans had not been developing space technology. Recently, they had been preparing for war for decades. General Park studied the reports. With increasing dread, every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. Humanity was not a primitive species making first contact. They were experienced warriors who had been watching the galaxy and preparing to defend themselves. The general realized that his empire had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed Earth was helpless because the humans wanted them to think that the kidnapping of one human child had forced Earth to reveal capabilities that they had kept hidden for strategic reasons. Park made a decision that would define his military career. He ordered immediate withdrawal of all Krellian forces from Earth sector and sent an urgent message to Imperial High Command. The message recommended treating humanity as an extreme threat and establishing diplomatic contact immediately. What General Park did not know was that his problems were just beginning. The Silent Hunter had not returned to Earth after rescuing the child. Chief Jamin had studied the captured alien navigation data and identified 17 Krellian outposts within striking distance of his homeworld. The SEAL team had voted unanimously to continue their mission. The aliens had threatened Earth by taking a human child. Now they would learn what happened to species that made such mistakes. The mission had evolved from rescue to reconnaissance to something much more ambitious. Lieutenant Commander Park. So Young coordinated the new operation with mathematical precision. Her analysis of Krellian defensive patterns revealed that the aliens relied on massive ships and overwhelming firepower, but had never learned to fight an enemy that refused to engage in conventional battle. The first target was Mining Station Zerion 4, a small outpost that supplied rare metals to the Krellian fleet. The station had minimal defenses because it was located in what the aliens considered safe space. No enemy had ever penetrated this deep into Krellian territory. The Silent Hunter approached the mining station using the same stealth technology that had made it invisible during the shipboarding. The SEALs studied the station layout and identified all personnel locations before beginning their assault. The attack lasted only 23 minutes. The SEALs moved through the station like shadows, eliminating guards and technical personnel with weapons that made no sound. The aliens died without ever seeing their killers or understanding what was happening. Before leaving, the SEALs downloaded all computer files related to Krellian military operations and supply lines. They also planted charges that would destroy the station completely. This was not random destruction. This was strategic warfare designed to cripple enemy logistics. The explosion of Mining Station Zerion 4 sent shockwaves through the Krellian command structure. General Park received the report while he was still trying to process the destruction of Commander Teho's ship. Now, a second installation had been destroyed by the same unknown enemy. Intelligence reports began flooding in from across the sector. Outpost Vega 7 had gone silent. Communications with Patrol Base Delta 2 had been lost. Research Station Kepler 9 was not responding to emergency signals. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Dr. Lee analyzed the attack patterns and reached a disturbing conclusion. The human vessel was not striking randomly. It was systematically destroying installations that supported Krellian military operations in the region. This suggested intelligence capabilities that were as advanced as their weapons technology. Captain Bong calculated that at the current rate of destruction, the entire frontier defense network would be eliminated within 1 week. The humans were not just rescuing their child, they were conducting a military campaign designed to remove any threat to their homeworld. General Park sent increasingly desperate messages to High Command, requesting immediate reinforcements and authorization to negotiate with the humans. But his superiors refused to believe that a single primitive vessel could be responsible for such widespread destruction. The breaking point came when the humans attacked Research Station Alpha Prime, the most heavily defended installation in the sector. The station was protected by 3 warships and had energy shields that could supposedly stop any weapon. The attack began at 0347 local time, when all 3 defending warships exploded simultaneously. The humans had somehow destroyed them before the crews could even activate their weapon systems. The station shields collapsed immediately afterward. SEALs boarded the research station and systematically eliminated all personnel while downloading classified files about Krellian military technology and strategic planning. The operation was completed in 38 minutes, including the time needed to plant demolition charges. Before the station exploded, the humans sent a message that was broadcast on all Krellian communication frequencies. The message was brief and delivered in perfect Krellian language. "Return our people unharmed, or we will continue this demonstration." General Park realized that humanity was treating the entire conflict as a training exercise. They were not fighting for survival. They were showing the Krellian Empire what would happen to any species that threatened human children. The general sent a final message to High Command that changed everything. Immediate diplomatic contact with species designation. Human required all Krellian forces ordered to maintain minimum safe distance from Sol system. Enemy capabilities exceed our projections by several orders of magnitude. High Command response came within hours. Emergency authorization. Granted for diplomatic negotiations, General Park appointed as special envoy to human government, priority instruction, do whatever necessary to avoid further hostilities. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics. It was their absolute refusal to abandon each other, especially their children. This made them the most dangerous species in known space, and therefore the most valuable allies anyone could hope for. Chief Jamin studied the star charts displayed on the Silent Hunter main screen. The captured Krellian navigation data showed him something that made his blood run cold. There were not just a few alien outposts near Earth. There were dozens of installations that could threaten his homeworld. Lieutenant Commander Park So-young worked at her console calculating attack routes and timing. The mathematics were complex, but the strategy was simple. They would eliminate every Krellian military installation within striking distance of Earth. The SEAL team had voted to continue their mission even though they had successfully rescued Da-Yoon. The aliens had made the mistake of threatening a human child. Now they would learn what happened to species that made such errors. Admiral Cho monitored the operation from Earth Hidden Command Center. She knew that each attack risked exposing more human military capabilities, but the strategic value was enormous. The aliens would never again underestimate humanity. The Silent Hunter moved through space like a phantom ship, striking targets that had never been attacked before. The SEALs had perfected their tactics during the first few raids. Now they could eliminate an entire outpost in less than 30 minutes. Patrol Base Sigma-7 was their next target. The installation monitored shipping lanes used by slave traders and provided early warning for the Krellian fleet. The base had 12 personnel and minimal weapons because it was located in supposedly safe space. The attack began at 0200 station time when all personnel were asleep. The SEALs boarded through the maintenance airlocks and moved through the station corridors like silent death. Their weapons made no sound and left no energy signatures. Commander Yoon Hae-jin was the base leader. He woke up when his security alarms failed to activate. Something was wrong, but he could not determine what. The station computer systems were responding normally, but his crew was not answering communication calls. Hae-jin grabbed his sidearm and left his quarters to investigate. He found the corridor lights dimmed and the air recycling system running quietly. Everything seemed normal, but the silence was disturbing. The commander reached the control room and found it empty. All duty stations were unmanned, but showed normal operational status. The computers indicated that all personnel were at their assigned positions, but no one was visible anywhere. A figure in black armor emerged from the shadows behind Hae-jin. The armor was unlike anything in Krellian military databases, and the helmet showed no identifying markings. The figure carried a weapon that seemed to absorb light. The armored human spoke in perfect Krellian through a translation device. You have 30 seconds to activate the emergency beacon and call for help. If you do this, you will live to see your family again. If you refuse, you will die. Here. Hae-jin realized he was looking at one of the legendary human warriors he had heard rumors. about these creatures fought like demons and showed no mercy to enemies who threatened their young, but they sometimes spared those who cooperated. The commander activated the emergency beacon and sent a distress call to fleet headquarters. The message was simple: Patrol Base Sigma-7 under attack by unknown forces, request immediate assistance. All personnel missing except base commander. Within minutes, the silent hunter disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind only the emergency beacon and one terrified Krellian commander. The base was undamaged, but all personnel except He-Jin had vanished without trace. General Park received the distress call while he was trying to explain to High Command why his forces were being systematically destroyed. The report from Patrol Base Sigma-7 was different from previous attacks. The humans had left a witness. Commander He-Jin debriefing provided the first detailed description of human boarding tactics. The aliens moved with supernatural quiet and precision. They seemed to know the station layout better than the crew who lived there. The human warriors had downloaded all computer files before leaving, but they had not destroyed the installation. This suggested they were gathering intelligence for future operations rather than simply eliminating threats. Dr. Lee analyzed the new data and reached a disturbing conclusion. The humans were not just attacking randomly. They were systematically mapping Krellian military capabilities and strategic weaknesses. This indicated a long-term campaign rather than emotional revenge. The pattern became clear over the next few days. The humans would strike a target, gather intelligence, and then move to the next installation. They were building a comprehensive picture of Krellian strength throughout the sector mining station. Kepler-7 was hit next. The facility supplied rare minerals to 3 different Krellian fleets and was protected by automated defense systems that should have been impregnable. The defenses were neutralized in less than 5 minutes. The attack on Kepler-7 lasted only 43 minutes, but the SEALs accomplished multiple objectives. They downloaded mining surveys that revealed mineral deposits throughout Krellian space. They captured Admiral Lee Junho, who was visiting the station. Most importantly, they left a message burned into the station hull in perfect Krellian script: "Return our people unharmed, or we will continue this demonstration." The message was signed with a symbol that meant warrior in ancient human languages. Admiral Lee captivity aboard the Silent Hunter became a cultural exchange that neither side had expected. Chief Jamin explained through translation software why humans fought so fiercely to protect their children. The Admiral learned that human military doctrine was based on concepts that most alien species had abandoned. Family loyalty, personal honor, and sacrifice for others were considered primitive emotions by advanced civilizations, but humans had built their entire military structure around these primitive emotions. A single threatened child could mobilize the entire human war machine regardless of cost or consequences. This made them unpredictable and therefore extremely dangerous. Admiral Lee began to understand why the humans had remained hidden for so long. They knew that other species would consider their emotional attachment to family groups as weakness, but this apparent weakness was actually their greatest strength: the human ability to fight as a unified force when their families were threatened made them capable of sustained military campaigns that would exhaust other species. Krellian forces fought for territory or resources, but humans fought for love. Chief Jamin showed Admiral Lee pictures of his daughter playing on the beach before she was kidnapped. The human father explained that every member of his species would do exactly the same thing if their child was taken by aliens. This revelation terrified Admiral Lee more than any weapon demonstration could have done. If humanity was willing to risk interstellar war to save one child, what would they do if an entire human colony was attacked? The Admiral realized that the Krellian Empire had, unknowingly, declared war on a species that was psychologically incapable of surrender when their children were at risk. This made negotiated peace the only option for survival. Admiral Lee sent a message to General Park through secure channels explaining what he had learned about human psychology. The message recommended immediate diplomatic contact to prevent total war between the species. The prisoner exchange was arranged at a neutral location near Jupiter. Admiral Lee was returned unharmed while Da-Un was reunited with her father aboard the Silent Hunter. The exchange was monitored by warships from both sides. General Park watched as Chief Jamin hugged his daughter on the observation deck of the Silent Hunter. The human father was crying with relief, but his fellow warriors maintained professional discipline. This combination of emotion and military capability was unprecedented. The final message from Chief Jamin to General Park became legendary throughout the galaxy. We are not conquerors. We are not raiders. We are parents, and we protect our children. Remember this, and we can be neighbors. Forget this, and we become your nightmare. The Krellian Empire issued a general order that would stand for generations. Sol System and all human settlements are declared protected zones. Any hostile action against human civilians will be considered an act of war against forces beyond our ability to defeat. General Park kept his command and became the Empire's first ambassador to Earth. Years later, he would tell other diplomats that humanity's secret was not their weapons or their technology, it was their willingness to risk everything for a single child. Admiral Lee Jun-ho sat in the interrogation room aboard the Silent Hunter trying to understand what he was seeing. The human who had captured him did not look like the primitive creature described in Krellian intelligence reports. Chief Jamin wore advanced military equipment that seemed more sophisticated than anything the Krellian Empire produced. His armor provided complete environmental protection while maintaining flexibility for combat operations. The translation software converted their conversation into perfect Krellian language, but Admiral Lee could hear the emotion in the human voice beneath the electronic words. This warrior was not just following orders, he was fighting for something personal. You took a child from warriors, Jamin explained through the translator. In our culture, there is no greater crime and no higher priority than recovering stolen young. We will burn down your entire civilization if necessary to protect one human child. The admiral who had commanded fleets in 3 different wars felt genuine fear for the first time in his military career. These humans did not fight for territory or resources or political advantage. They fought for principles that made them completely uncompromising. When Admiral Lee learned that the child father was personally leading the rescue mission, he experienced something unprecedented in 40 years of military service. He began to fear for his entire species. The human military did not operate like any force in galactic history. Krellian commanders sent soldiers to fight while remaining safely behind the lines. But this human father had risked everything to rescue his own daughter, Admiral. Lee realized that humanity's greatest advantage was not their technology or tactics, but their emotional commitment to family. Every human parent would do exactly what Chief Jamin had done, regardless of personal cost. The interrogation became a cultural education that changed how Admiral Lee viewed the entire conflict. The humans were not savage primitives or desperate raiders. They were professional warriors operating under a code of honor that made them absolutely relentless. Chief Jamin showed the Admiral pictures of Da-Un playing on the beach before her kidnapping. The little girl looked happy and innocent, completely unaware that alien slavers were watching from space. The human father explained that his daughter represented everything the military existed to protect. Human children were not just future citizens, they were the reason civilization itself existed. This made protecting them the highest possible priority. Admiral Lee began to understand why the human response had been so overwhelming. A single kidnapped child had triggered mobilization of military assets that most species would reserve for invasion defense. The humans treated every threatened child as a threat to their entire civilization. The Admiral realized that Krellian intelligence had completely misunderstood human psychology. The Empire had assumed that advanced species would abandon primitive emotions like family loyalty. but humans had built their entire military structure around these emotions. This made humanity unlike any opponent the Krellians had ever faced. They could not be discouraged by military losses or frightened by superior numbers. When human children were threatened, the entire species would fight to total victory or complete extinction. Admiral Lee sent a coded message to General Park explaining what he had learned about human motivation. The message recommended immediate diplomatic contact to prevent escalation to total war between the species. General Park received the transmission while his fleet maintained defensive positions far from human space. The Admiral report confirmed his worst fears about the enemy they were facing. The general had studied military history for 30 years, but had never encountered a species that treated individual children as strategic assets worth risking interstellar war. Human psychology made them capable of sustained military campaigns that would exhaust any opponent. Park sent an emergency message to High Command requesting authorization for immediate diplomatic negotiations. The message explained that humanity was psychologically incapable of surrender when their children were at risk. High Command response arrived within hours. Emergency authorization granted for diplomatic contact. General Park appointed as special envoy to human government priority instruction. Do whatever necessary to avoid further hostilities with Earth. The prisoner exchange was arranged in neutral space near the outer planets of the Sol system. Both sides sent warships to monitor the transfer, but maintained respectful distances to avoid accidental conflict. General Park watched through his flagship observation deck as the exchange took place. Admiral Lee was transferred to a Krellian shuttle, while the human child was returned to her father aboard the Silent Hunter. The reunion between Chief Jaemin and Da-Eun was broadcast on open channels, so both sides could witness it. The human father held his daughter, while tears ran down his face, but his military discipline remained intact, Park realized. He was watching something unprecedented in galactic history. A professional warrior who had risked everything to save one child was crying with relief while maintaining command of the most advanced military vessel in known space. The final communication, from Chief Jaemin to General Park, became the foundation of human-alien diplomacy for generations. We are not conquerors. We are not raiders. We are parents, and we protect our children. The message continued. Remember this, and we can be neighbors. Forget this, and we become your worst nightmare. We want only to raise our families in peace, but we will destroy anyone who threatens our young General Park, transmitted the message to every Krellian commander in the fleet along with new standing orders. Sol's system and all human territories are declared off-limits. Any hostile action against human civilians requires authorization from Imperial High Command. The Krellian Empire issued a general directive that would reshape galactic politics. Human settlements are under Imperial protection. Any species attacking human colonies will face the combined military response of both Earth and Krellian forces. Over the following years, General Park served as ambassador to Earth and learned that humanity strength came from sources that most alien species had forgotten. The humans had never lost their connection to family and community bonds. These primitive emotions that other civilizations considered weaknesses had become humanity's greatest strategic advantages. When their children were threatened, humans could mobilize resources and maintain military campaigns that exhausted more advanced opponents. Park's eventual memoir became required reading at military academies throughout the galaxy. The book explained that humanity's secret weapon was not their technology or tactics, but their absolute refusal to abandon each other. The general final assessment of human military capability became the standard evaluation used by all galactic powers. Humanity should be considered the most dangerous species in known space, not because of their weapons, but because of their willingness to use them. The memo concluded that humans fight not for conquest or glory, but for love of their families. This makes them unbeatable in conflicts involving their core interests and therefore the most valuable allies anyone could hope for. Years later, when other species asked General Park how to establish peaceful relations with humanity, his answer was always the same. Treat their children like your own, and you will never have a more loyal friend. Threaten their young, and you will face an enemy that will never stop hunting you. The galaxy learned that day that sometimes the most primitive emotions produce. The most advanced military capabilities and human love for their children made them willing to challenge any force in the universe to protect a single.